Good morning, everyone. This is Bastien live from Bali this week. Super happy and to spend my week here with my family. And we had the chance to go for the one who know Bali in Ubud, in the central part of Bali, and now we are on the coast in the Semanyak. So it's very, very nice and very, very excited. And today is episode number 18 of the Decanted portfolio. We are Friday, the 27th of February, 2026. Hello, Nico. How are you?
I'm very good, Bastian. It is so exciting and so exotic to have you in Bali this week.
Yes, you see, I have a different background because I'm in my hotel room as we speak. And maybe let me start quickly by the traditional disclaimers. Of course, this is not financial advice in this podcast. This is we just give our opinion, and you invest, based on your background and based on your personal situation. And of course, please drink responsibly because it's super important to stay very healthy and not drink and drive, for instance. So today, Nico, maybe we can talk very quickly about the markets because I think this week has been I would say almost like every week since we are doing this podcast, but basically it's going up and down, up and down. So Nico, tell us, what would you keep for this week?
Yes, thank you, Bastian. So the first thing that I would say is that the sponsor of this podcast is Pantaray. Pantaray has designed Cartesio, which is your first digital CIO. It is an autonomous engine adapting our investment portfolio to fit any market conditions. For a smoother investing experience, follow us as we are founder and co-founder of Pantaray on www.pantar.ai. We review financial markets on a weekly basis or daily basis, actually, and the market has been very eclectic this week. Not only it is going up and down, but different asset classes are following very different patterns. Japan and emerging market stocks continue to be very well performing, but we have episodes of 2 or 3% for one day and then a negative drift down and then back up again. Very difficult to trade. The Nasdaq is finally in a positive week with plus 1%, but yesterday did almost -2. So very bumpy ride. European stocks better, gold has been volatile, bonds have been resilient, but it is very difficult to find a pattern in these lateral markets. And so the direction remains not very clear. And I think today we want to discuss in this eclectic, strange, bumpy, moody market about eclectic, strange, or moody wines, right? Or where we are with this? What do you think? What are you thinking?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I started to think about the wine I want to talk about today, I thought also about pleasure because this week has not been pleasant for me following the market because it's as you said, like very bumpy. And one day you think, okay, so we go back on track, we go back to normal, and the following day it's going right in the opposite directions. So maybe a little bit of pleasure could be good. And today I want to talk about a wine from France because, as you said, European has been quite good this week. So I was thinking about something in Europe, and I thought about pleasure wine. So I thought about a Cahors wine. So it's an appellation coming from the southwest of France. Not very well known, but still quite interesting, I think. So I will talk about Cahors wine and to one specific producer, which I know for many years. The name is Chateau Triguedina, so Triguedina. So I will write it maybe underneath the podcast because it's quite specific. But small house, and I think very, very interesting. And what about you, Nico? Which wines did you pick up?
Yes, thank you. Normally we go through regions. We have done a number of episodes to start illustrating regions in general to build up a bit of knowledge and then picking up one or more specific wines high level. Today, in this strange, mixed, bumpy market, I think I will go through a wine tasting that I've done recently in Madrid with some friends that will touch 4 incredible big, bold, different wines from different regions. Okay, so it will be a mix. It will be about specific producers, and you will be surprised.
Great, great, great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yes. So,
So maybe let me start to talk about Cahors. So we are basically southwest of France. So roughly 150 kilometers from Bordeaux, so like full east, so right side, inside the land from the Bordeaux area. And this is a specific area because this is where you find probably the most famous Malbec in grapes in France. You can have some Malbec as well in Bordeaux. It's possible because it's one of the few grapes that you can put in the blend because Bordeaux is a blend. But in Cahors, it has to be a minimum of 70% of Malbec in each single bottle of Cahors wine. So it's really the main grapes and the most famous ones. And I think people tend to think that it's 100% Malbec, but it's not necessarily the case. It depends about what the winemaker decide and the producer is organized. So if you look at basically the size of the appellations, it's 3,000 hectares, and it produces roughly 15 millions of a bottle per year. And what is interesting is, do you know basically when Cahors started to produce wine?
No, I have no idea.
When did it start?
But it must be
It's
a
a
long time ago.
time ago.
Okay, so we are
Yes.
reconnecting in the podcast. You know, we are recording live. Family sometimes is around, and there was a fun episode. Bastian, we can reconnect on Cahors. Okay, so you were saying.
Yes, yes. No. I was saying so. Cahors, 3,000 roughly hectares, 15 million bottles. So small appellation, of course. Compared to Bordeaux or to Champagne area in France, but still, I think very interesting because it's a very one of the oldest regions where we have been producing wine in France. For instance, Cahors wines, was a wine of choice for the wedding of Eleanor of Aquitaine and Henry II in the 12th century. So it's been there for a very long time. And this wine also resisted to the phylloxera. So it's one of the few appellations where you have like very old, vineyards. So that's very interesting. And of course, this wine, which called like the black wine, is the vineyards are around like the Lot River. So that's very interesting because, of course, with the river, it brings, a cooler climate, and also in summer and in winter, it helps to protect basically, the vineyards. And in terms of geography, also, you have two different kind of geographies because you have lower terrace, which are closer also to the river. And so it's where you find much more fruity wine there. And you have a plateau which is higher, and you have more minerality in terms of taste. So you can, also play basically with the geography and the location of the vineyards, basically to change the taste of a wine. So I want to talk about Chateau Triguedina, as I mentioned, about pleasure, because this wine is very close from my hometown when I was born, and where my family is coming from. And so I had the chance to taste this wine when I was a young kid with my grandparents, because they were drinking Cahors wines, and that's why it reminded me of them. So that's something which is that's why it's also a pleasure time for me to talk about this wine. So Chateau Triguedina has been in the same family so for almost 200 years. So since the 1830, the family Baldes basically owns this winery, and they are producing Malbecs. And I think they are producing one of the best Malbec in the region, in the Cahors regions. So when we think about basically what they do, so they have of course three different kind of products. So wine, the main cuvée, the classical cuvée. which is Chateau Triguedina. They have a prestige cuvée, which is named Probus, which is around the 40 euros. So Chateau Triguedina main wine is around 20, and they have like a parcel selection, so lot selection, which is around 80, but very small productions. And I'm going to talk about the main wine. So when you try this wine, you have a lot of blackberries. I know, Nico, you made already a podcast and we discussed about wine from South America, sorry. From and so we have like the main characteristic of Malbec, meaning like black fruits, so blackberries. You can have also some dark chocolate, nose and aromas, smoky tobaccos. You have also some a little bit of green of menthol, which is typical also for Malbec from South America. You have some liquorized, taste. You have velvet structures, so that's something very interesting, I think, for this kind of wines. And of course, you have tannins. And really, but they are really polished with Triguedina. I mean, this is really the knowledge of a winemaker. So they are not very aggressive. They are really polished, so quite interesting, and a nice acidity as well. So it means that you can keep and you can age, these kind of wines for several years, 20 to 30 years in your cellar. So that's also interesting because you can, buy several different bottles and, maybe open one every 5 years just to play and see the difference when the wine is aging. So what I wanted to talk about these Cahors regions, and if you see a bottle, try it. Usually the price quality is very interesting, and that's quite interesting experience, and maybe do like also blind tasting with the wines from South America.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Bastian. So I think we mentioned very, very quickly in the previous episode Cahors because it's the origin of all the Malbecs of South America, and especially in Argentina, it has become the signature grape. They survived to phylloxera. They have been brought down in South America at the beginning of the century, the 1900, and Cahors is the most famous Malbec source in Europe. Is one of the very few. You mentioned that in Bordeaux you can find some other mixes, but in Europe it didn't really survive. I think it's worth mentioning that Cahors probably also makes the darkest red wine in Europe. The Malbec from there is usually very dark, and it is also differently than the success of Argentina. European Malbecs tend to have tannin and some of this green backbone, but the producer that you mentioned, being skilled, is capable to transform a grippy source of important tannins into a smooth experience. So it's worth trying one more time, right? So Cahors is the source of the European Malbec, not produced much, then transferred to a big success to South America, which links up to one of the episodes that we made. I thank you very much for this. It's super interesting. Please try this wine and try Malbecs from the region. I will move to a different structure in my narrative today. So we have said eclectic markets with some pleasant point of views and some ups and downs and bumpy. And so I put together a tasting which I've done with some very good friends recently, which goes through a Brunello di Montalcino from Italy, Argiano Brunello 2018. Which in the year 2023 was voted by the Americans of Wine Spectator, which, as you might know, is one of the Bibles of wine out there, the best wine on the planet in 2023, okay? And I was lucky enough to be able to buy 3 bottles. And this was the last and third one. You normally keep these wines for aging, but this was already ready for drinking, and this was the best bottle. We'll go into the details there. And I compared this Argiano to some South American Malbecs and other wines. There was the Malbec Argentino by Catena 2022. Stellar, beautiful, fruity Malbec, probably one of the best Malbecs, if not the best, that is produced down there. We'll compare notes. Don Melchor Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon 2021, voted by Wine Spectator in 2024, the best wine on the planet. So we have 2 big deals there with a fantastic Malbec. And the fourth one was the Gran Enemigo Red Blend 2021, and this was a blend in between Malbec, Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon. Four incredible wines. So we would take 1 hour to go in detail with, through all of them, but very quickly, we started with the Brunello di Montalcino, which normally is a muscular wine from Tuscany. This was very gentle, beautiful, delicate, a very clear red wine. It was the first one that we opened. Imagine to walk in the countryside, it can be in the south of France or in Tuscany, but in an autumn day, foggy, humid, in silence on Sunday morning. It would be wet, it would be beautiful, quiet, but uncomfortable, the humidity. But as you walk, you would have this smell of chimneys working with fire. So it wouldn't be like a purely smoked smell, and it wouldn't be fire or stone. It's something in between. And so it was emerging these brûlés, I would say in French, no? These slightly ahumado, slightly smoked, marvelous pairing coming out of fruit and cherry, and also delicate, I think, tea leaves. And so the Brunello was a beauty, the first one we started with. Then we moved to the Malbec Argentino 2022. Is a Malbec, it has an important element of marmalade of red fruits. But this one specifically, being ultra rich with absolutely the best grapes that you can find down in the Mendoza area, this one was full of caramel. So imagine these spoons of blueberries, plum, blackberries, and cherries in marmalade put on top of a cake without the sweetness. This was the Malbec Argentino. We tried some others before with some friends. This one is still very young, but these wines are ready, 2022. It was caramel, it was pure pleasure. So we were moving from subtle, understated elegance to a wine being very supple. Still elegant, much more substance, but lacking important tannins there still. So we moved into the Gran Enemigo Red Blend 2021, younger than the Brunello di Montalcino, but more character than the Malbec Argentino in terms of tannins, not in flavor. So with the Gran Enemigo, we went into this cappuccino, coffee smells. There was some eucalyptus or some fresh smell there as well emerging, and some spices coming out. And so you started narrowing the focus of the wine. And of course, we were associating some, it was a pasta risottata with some saffron and bacon, which went very good with these wines. Very different expression of another red wine, important, but very differently focused, incredible, to then close with the Don Melchor 2021 again, incredibly more powerful. Don Melchor, and we still need to go through Chile as a region. We are in Maipo Valley. Maipo Valley is a big area in the middle of which there is Santiago de Chile, the capital. But outside of Santiago is completely secluded Chile. Not secluded, but actually there's a lot of wilderness. And so Maipo can be north or south of Santiago. Puente Alto, where Don Melchor is made, is a superb sub-area in Maipo in the south of Santiago. The difference in day and night temperatures is very high, similarly to the Argentinian side, but this is a Cabernet Sauvignon almost in full. It's 93% Cab, I think, and it was very structured. Still ready to drink somehow, because Southern American wines are great, and the tannins are never green or hardly green unless you go on the Carmenere and very specific things, or Petit Verdot. But these had smells of cola, which were coming out with mocha coffee, with some leather, with some important spices as well. But the alcohol structure and the acidity makes it for a wine that can last 20 years. We have more at home, and so we can wait. But it is interesting to be around the same years. You expect much more structure from a Brunello, which actually was the more delicate. Malbec or Malbec blends having a very different focus, beautiful in their own two ways, and then going to Chile, same year, on the other side of the Andes, different grape, made for aging. It was very powerful. It would go well today, but the acidity is important, and so it will last a long time. And so probably it would be wise to try today in a couple of years and in 5 years, for example. It was for quite a complex, different experience. And I think the cola flavors down in Puente Alto were interesting. So a good excursus across 4 producers, 4 bottles, 2 of which have been recently the top wines on the planet. I can see why. Very lucky to try those. Very eclectic, different experience, which is a good summary of what we have seen on markets this week. Okay, so this was my experience. Please share notes if you try some of this. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and let us know.
Yeah, thank you, Nico, for sharing.
Thank you.
So very interesting.
This is probably it for the episode, right?
I think this is. No, that was interesting, and I think it's always nice also when you have a chance to be able to test several wines from different, part of the world, and to be able to do some comparisons. So that's looks like very exciting moments.
See, thank you. It was super fun. I would say thank you for the audience. Thank you for following us. Cahors Malbec, some Malbec, and some eclectic wines try today. Share views with us, and we'll speak with you in the next episode. Okay?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.